take you through the Sunday papers. This morning we're joined by Aggie Chambray, political correspondent at LBC, and Katrina Stewart, politics and education correspondent for The Scotsman. So welcome back to both of you.
Thanks for being with us.
And we've dealt with a lot of the front pages. We've looked at the Home Secretary's plans, lots of other issues. But we are going to turn to the Sunday Times now and talk about some of the behind-the-scenes rows that have been going on in what's been an extraordinary week for the Labour Party.
Yes, and I think this story on the front page of the Sunday Times, which focuses on the ins and outs of a phone call between Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff for Keir Starmer, and Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, it says that they had a shouting match on the phone on Thursday, that Wes Streeting has confronted Morgan McSweeney about briefing that came out of Number 10, we think on Tuesday night, that suggested that he was on manoeuvres and was looking to be the next leader of the Labour Party. And I think behind the scenes, a lot of Labour MPs were hoping that this would calm itself down, that the groups involved maybe would go for a pint, sort it out, shake hands, and it would be done and dusted by the weekend. But this, I think, lays bare just how fractious the relationships are, and that this has really been an extraordinary misstep from Morgan McSweeney, if it was indeed he who put this briefing around. And of course it follows many briefings against cabinet ministers, and I think just illustrates how difficult things are for Labour at the moment.
Aggie, what are your sources telling you about who was the person that did the briefing? Was it Morgan McSweeney or others within Number 10?
I mean, he very much denies that. It's been an extraordinary week on actually who did it. So the running assumption is that basically there was this briefing to a number of journalists about the fact that Keir Starmer would stand and he would fight if anyone challenged him, and that was one portion of it. And then the separate portion of it was the fact that Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, was on manoeuvres himself, and that he had these MPs ready ministers ready to quit, and
which
that
he denies.
Exactly, which he very much denies too. And I think the idea is that they were sort of separate briefings, and it was an errant extra briefing about the cabinet minister. But Keir Starmer basically it seemed like it was a leak inquiry, but it was very quick if it was a leak inquiry.
Really
and he gathered his senior leadership team on Thursday and basically said, I don't accept briefing, I don't want this to happen, this was absolutely not sanctioned by me, and then sort of came out of that and said, well, I've been assured that no one in Number 10 did any briefing against a cabinet minister. So I think a lot of people were slightly quizzical as to how he could know that, especially because Pippa Crerar, who had that initial story in her Guardian article, talked about Number 10 sources with the cabinet minister.
Yeah.
But I think no one really knows exactly, apart from the journalist who was specifically briefed, who was briefed about the cabinet minister. But I think, as Katrina says, it has not made things easier either for Labour MPs or for Number 10, or indeed for the Health Secretary.
And
Sorry, Katrina.
I like the line where it says the call ended without resolution.
Yeah.
It's such a nice sort of way of phrasing what was obviously a very fractious situation.
And also, I mean, the other thing that I had heard last week was that it was Wes's own people within Number 10 were putting it out. There's all this 4D chessness going on that's, adds to the confusion about it all. And the article does end with a Number 10 source, another one of them, saying that the call was not shouty.
I know.
Just brilliant. Of course it wasn't.
The thing that it did do is it made everyone talk about leadership challenges, which hadn't really been the thing that most people were talking about for now. Certainly, they thought maybe there's going to be pressure on Keir Starmer come the local elections next summer, but it's put it front and centre, and front and centre is on the Sunday Mirror, rather, I should say, and one of the other papers as well, suggesting that Angela Rayner might be on manoeuvres. I mean, this is actually an interview with her where she's talking about focusing on her constituency.
Before you go into it, just a thought on it as a political correspondent, both of you. Will they have had this interview sitting there waiting, or will they have gone to her after this week and said, and just now it's time to talk to us? What do you think?
My bet is that she will have seen what happened this week and thought, what a brilliant time for me to come out and talk about how I'm going to keep fighting for ordinary people.
Exactly. Right. She's in her constituency, and I'm pretty sure there's been some proactive comms happening around that visit.
Yeah, so talk us through this article, because she's talking about, getting to know her constituents now that she's no longer got those roles as Housing Secretary or Deputy Prime Minister. But one of the other papers is suggesting that she is starting to manoeuvre.
Indeed, and this is a very Labour member-facing interview. That's not suggesting that anything she says she doesn't believe for any second, but it is the kind of thing she is saying will go down very, very well with Labour Party members. So talking about what's happened happened this week that we were just talking about, this briefing wars, saying it almost looks arrogant when you've got real challenges that real people are facing, and talking about what the government's achieved, talking about what she's achieved too. And there was this interesting line saying, talking about the fact that she fought so hard for the employment rights bill. I wonder who she fought against, potentially inside government, potentially in the Labour Party, potentially against the Tories, but talking about fighting so hard for that employment rights bill. And also a separate article coming out of that interview saying that she wants to scrap the 2-child benefit cap to end the evil of child poverty. Now, I think the general assumption is that is going to be scrapped in the budget in 10 days' time, but interesting that she is making that at that point as well. And LBC, we've been told as well that as long as Nigel Farage is around, she's going to try her hardest for the Labour Party and not let Farage get in. So I think we will probably be seeing more of her. But obviously, her popping up in this first interview in the Sunday Mirror will lead to accusations, as it has in other papers, that she is potentially on manoeuvres. And as we talked about last hour, it will probably suit her if the challenge to Keir Starmer came later rather than sooner, because she sort of needs to build herself back up, if indeed she wants to, after what happened when she had to resign.
Yep. All right. Let's move on, if we can, to the Sunday Express. More speculation about tax coming in November's budget, later in November's budget, of course. Katrina, take us through what they're telling us or suggesting could happen here on the front of the Express.
So this is focusing on retail and hospitality, and it's really trade bodies asking for succour in the budget. They're saying that they have been hammered by the end of rates relief. There were problems with the employers' national insurance contributions, and this is saying that in the UK at the moment 2 pubs are closing each week, and a really bleak warning that is going to accelerate. And the paper has spoken to various different industry bodies asking exactly what they need from the budget to improve the picture. And of course, it is a bleak picture at the moment on the high streets. There's very rarely good news about improvements. So rather than any sort of specifics in the budget that they're battling back against, as we've seen in budget coverage over the past few weeks, this is just a stark warning to the government and a request for help.
And one of a number of pre-budget articles, once again, in the papers. We've not got very much time, and we've got 2 stories. What do you reckon, Kamali? Which should we go for?
I'm going to defer to you.
Should we go for Alexa Chung and her mobile
Let's do
phone?
that.
This is in, remind me which paper it is. It's in the Telegraph.
It is in the Telegraph, yes. And as we were saying, as responsible broadcasters, not advocating that people fight off mobile phone thieves on the streets of London, but obviously, mobile phone theft has been an increasing issue in London. Alexa Chung, the model and television presenter, recently someone tried to mug her for her mobile phone. But, and I think we can all relate to this, she was in the middle of a really interesting group chat conversation.
Brilliant. She was texting
and she
away.
was just not going to have that interrupted.
To finish that message.
So she used some unparliamentary language that I won't repeat to get rid of him, and kept her phone.
Well done, Alexa.
Glad she's
Careful.
okay. That's all I can say. Anyway, we're out of time, but lovely to see you both this morning. Thank you.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.